He was doing nothing, and that was the problem. There were no tasks waiting for him, no messages demanding attention, no pressure pushing him forward. He had finally stopped moving. And yet, instead of feeling calm, his body felt uneasy. His mind kept searching for something to latch onto. A thought, a distraction, a reason to get up. Sitting still felt uncomfortable, almost wrong, as if he was forgetting something important. He tried to relax, but relaxation didn't arrive. The room was quiet, his phone was away, and nothing urgent needed his attention. Still, a subtle tension stayed in his chest. Not anxiety exactly. Not fear. Just restlessness. A sense that something should be happening, even though nothing needed to. This confused him. He had always assumed that restlessness came from stress or pressure. But right now, there was neither. Life was calm. The moment was empty. And that emptiness felt unsettling. Psychologically, this kind of restlessness doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from not knowing how to be still. The mind becomes so accustomed to movement that stillness feels unfamiliar. When there is nothing to react to, the nervous system doesn't immediately relax. It searches. It scans. It waits for a signal that never comes. He noticed that the restlessness wasn't connected to any specific thought. It was physical as much as mental. A need to adjust his posture. To check something. To interrupt the quiet. The body felt ready for action even though there was nothing to act on. This is what happens when the mind associates motion with safety. Over time, urgency becomes normal. Deadlines, notifications, constant stimulation create a rhythm that the nervous system adapts to. When that rhythm stops, the system doesn't know how to slow down. It stays alert, even when alertness is no longer needed. He realized that when life was busy, he never questioned how he felt internally. There was always something to respond to. Stillness removed that structure. Without external cues, his mind had to face itself without distraction. And that exposure felt uncomfortable. Restlessness often disguises itself as boredom. But boredom isn't the issue. The issue is that stillness leaves no place to hide. When the noise stops, the mind turns inward. And if it has never learned how to settle, it becomes agitated instead. He tried to ignore the feeling by doing small things. Standing up. Sitting back down. Opening an app and closing it again. Each distraction brought temporary relief, but the restlessness returned the moment he stopped. It wasn't asking for entertainment. It was reacting to silence. The body had learned to stay activated. Even when nothing was happening, it expected something to happen. This is why restlessness often appears during moments that should feel peaceful. The nervous system doesn't trust stillness yet. He began to understand that restlessness wasn't a sign that something was wrong with him. It was a sign that his system hadn't practiced slowing down. Calm wasn't his default state. Motion was. When people say they can't relax, what they often mean is that their body doesn't recognize relaxation as safe. Stillness feels like a gap, and gaps feel dangerous to a mind trained by constant stimulation. The urge to move, think, or distract is an attempt to restore familiarity. The restlessness didn't mean he needed more activity. It meant he needed time. Time for the body to learn that nothing bad happens when nothing is happening. Time for the mind to realize that stillness doesn't equal loss of control. He wasn't restless because life was demanding. He was restless because life had finally stopped demanding anything at all. And without demands, he didn't yet know how to simply exist. At first, he believed the restlessness meant he was failing at rest. Other people seemed able to sit quietly, to enjoy slow moments, to do nothing without feeling uncomfortable. He assumed something was wrong with him, that his mind was broken or impatient. But the more he paid attention, the more he realized the restlessness wasn't personal. It was conditioned. For years, his days had been filled with signals. Notifications, responsibilities, expectations, and constant stimulation had trained his nervous system to stay ready. Ready to respond, ready to adjust, ready to move. Calm moments were rare, and when they appeared, they were usually filled immediately. True stillness had never been practiced long enough to feel familiar. So when he finally sat in silence, his body didn't interpret it as peace. It interpreted it as uncertainty. Without clear direction, the nervous system stayed alert. The restlessness was its way of asking, "What should we do now?" And when no answer came, tension followed. He noticed that if he stayed still long enough, the sensation didn't get worse. It peaked, hovered, and then slowly shifted. The urge to move softened. The constant scanning eased. What felt unbearable at first became tolerable, then neutral. This surprised him. He had expected stillness to overwhelm him, but instead, it settled him, once he stopped fighting it. Psychologically, the body learns calm the same way it learns stress, through repetition. Just as constant stimulation trains restlessness, consistent stillness trains relaxation. But the transition between the two feels uncomfortable. The nervous system resists change, even when the change is beneficial. That resistance is what most people experience as restlessness. He realized that every time he escaped the feeling by distracting himself, he reinforced the idea that stillness was unsafe. The relief was immediate, but the pattern stayed intact. Only by staying with the discomfort did the system begin to update itself. Only by not reacting did calm slowly emerge. The restlessness wasn't asking him to do more. It was asking him to pause without panic. To let the body learn that quiet moments don't require action. That nothing needs to be fixed, checked, or solved right away. This wasn't about forcing relaxation. It was about allowing it to develop naturally. As he practiced staying still, he noticed subtle changes. His breathing slowed without effort. His thoughts became less urgent. The constant need to shift attention faded. He wasn't suddenly peaceful, but he was no longer fighting himself. The restlessness lost its grip when it stopped being treated as a problem. He understood now why doing nothing felt so difficult. In a world that rewards motion, stillness feels unnatural. Productivity is praised. Pauses are filled. Silence is avoided. Restlessness becomes normal, and calm becomes unfamiliar. When nothing is happening, the mind doesn't know where to go because it has always been told where to look. The quiet wasn't empty. It was simply unstructured. And structure had always come from outside. Learning to relax meant learning to create internal safety rather than relying on constant stimulation. It meant trusting that nothing bad would happen if he stopped reacting. Over time, restlessness stopped feeling like an enemy. It became a signal. A reminder that his system needed time, not pressure. Stillness wasn't something to achieve. It was something to grow into. And growth, unlike distraction, couldn't be rushed. He didn't eliminate restlessness forever. It still appeared from time to time. But now he recognized it. He didn't obey it immediately. He didn't judge it. He stayed long enough for it to pass. And each time he did, stillness felt a little less threatening. Eventually, doing nothing stopped feeling like a mistake. It felt like space. Space to breathe, to notice, to exist without direction. And in that space, calm didn't arrive loudly or dramatically. It arrived quietly, as an absence of urgency. As a sense that nothing needed to happen for the moment to be complete. Restlessness fades not when life becomes easier, but when the mind learns that stillness is safe. And once that lesson is learned, doing nothing no longer feels uncomfortable. It feels natural.